Hey, welcome. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'm going to talk love and relationships. We've got some big energies happening, but more specifically, I'm going to do a reading, a free reading. If you're new here, this is the place to be because we give out one free reading. You comment your digits below and stay tuned and find out what that looks like because that's what this is right here, right now. We dive deep with all astrology. All right, this is a Leo ascendant, Leo rising video. The ascendant is, the degrees are 157. If you do not know about degrees, if you do not know about your own chart, comment your stuff below. You might have a chart that is different because in astrology, there's a whole bunch of different systems that can be used. It would make more sense to use a chart that goes along with what I'm looking at so that it makes sense for you because I can use a different chart. You know, I can use like a whole house system or like a Vedic chart, which completely looks different than what I'm looking at. And if I'm reading off of something, you know, it's like reading out of two different books. Wouldn't make any sense. Not that one system is better. It's more or less about this is what, as a reader, I'm more comfortable with. 157 is the rising sign. They have some things that are going on that are relatable for all of us. They have a moon. This is also in Leo at 2553. Holy crap. Talk about a lot of fire, right? Very optimistic emotions, very bright, because that's what fire does. It brightens things up. They have their sun in freaking Sagittarius. Like this person is all fire. Holy crap. Optimism galore. That's, you know, I gotta kind of like that, right? So they have their sun in Sagittarius at 1657. And their moon also, like I said, in fire as well as their rising sign. So off top, it's like, holy crap, how they probably could be too hot to handle at times, right? Because too much of anything is too much. But depending upon other elements in their chart, we'll see if they've got things to balance them out. They actually do have, because fire and air get along, right? They actually like feed off of each other. They do well together. The thing is, this person has a little bit of air, not a whole bunch, but a little bit. They also have quite a bit of earth. And so when you have a lot of, what does earth do when there's fire, right? If you throw dirt on top of fire, it sucks out some of the oxygen and it actually helps to diminish the flames a bit. So that actually is a balance. Now, the things that I want to make note of for this person is the upcoming March energy. Before I actually go deep into that, though, because that's going to be the full moon energy, which is March 9th. And if you haven't seen your full moon video for March, I don't even think they're labeled as full moon, but it's rising sign videos. And in each of those videos, I talk specifically to each rising sign as to where this is going to happen in your life. And so if you haven't watched it, find it, and if you know your rising sign. If you don't know your rising sign, comment your stuff below and I can get that information to you because that will at least, it's a start, okay? And it's better than nothing. The full moon energy is emotions. All full moons are emotions, but this one is very different because at the opposite end of the full moon is the sun. Actually, so that would be down here at the flame, right? The sun and the planet Neptune. Now, the sun is how we express, it's how we shine, it's our light, it is our vitality. Neptune being there dissolves energy, it dissolves the vitality, it clouds the light. It rules Pisces, so it's the great actor, right? It's the chameleon. It's all about wanting there to be, it kind of goes with the flow, right? Some people say it's the fish in the water, and so obviously whatever the current is, the fish goes with it, right? And so that's kind of my chameleon type of a thing. But it's very intuitive energy. It's connected to source. It is connected to we are all one, right? It understands the underlying unity in all beings and things, actually. So it really has a lot to do with faith. Also, it has to do with what do I believe and believing in something I can't see and understanding that the universe ultimately loves us, loves me, loves, you know, the universe is within me. I am literally the micro of the universe. I am an example of it. I can change, I can evolve, you can too, we all can. And so we have these unbelievably divine, latent degrees within us. And that Piscean energy is that. So we all have that within us. The beautiful thing about it is there is this resourcefulness in our belief, meaning we don't necessarily know how we're going to do it. You know, we don't know how we could possibly cope. We don't know how we can survive and manage, but we somehow do. We somehow make it. We somehow live to tell the story. You know, a lot of folks have, you know, varying degrees of experiences in their lives. And so everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has that one or two, or some have multiple handfuls of experiences that just seem unmanageable, unlivable, unexperienceable. Like, oh my God, I never want to do that. I never want to have to experience that. But yet they live to tell the tale. They live to be able to share those experiences. And it's the divine degrees within us. It is that Piscean stuff. And at the time when they were going through it, they didn't know how they would manage either. But it's at those times when we can call upon the higher energies to support us. And that's what we do when we pray. Whatever your faith is, whatever your religion is, whatever your belief system is, that's what you're doing when you're setting out your intentions and you're thinking and you're hoping and you're writing down wishes and you're praying. It's this focused thought involving my emotions, and emotions are energy. And so when we connect all of that together and our belief that there are divine degrees that exist, whether you want to be okay with saying, yes, they're within me, but they're also within the universe. They're all around me. The good is just always waiting to come through, right? It's always there waiting to be revealed. If you have that kind of belief system lined up for you, you can find that somehow you made it. Somehow the sun did rise the next day. Somehow the clouds did part, right? And there was that rainbow. So Piscean energy is that. And it's important to talk about because there is this coronavirus stuff. And the worst thing we can do right now is get into a panic mode. The worst thing we can do is feel helpless. The worst thing we can do is be doubtful. The greatest thing we can do is to grasp onto that Piscean energy, to grasp onto that. I know there's something greater, there's something stronger, there is something more resourceful, there is something there that is bigger than just me. Even though I have part of it in me, there is still something all-knowing that understands what the long-term plan is, the long-term goal. And if I can just hold on, if we can just hold on, we can make it through this. And so that Piscean energy is that. That is what we want to keep in mind and find out where we have that in our chart so that we can kind of embrace that there. And that is going to be your place where you can let your Piscean energy shine. So now that brings me to this full moon energy. If the sun is your vitality, and if Neptune's job is to cover that vitality, to cover that light, it's almost like it's a time because we feel what others are feeling. And as news about this coronavirus escalates, and we're not necessarily all very comfortable maybe with how things are being handled, right? Things might not be handled to the speed in which we think they should be. All these things, all these thoughts of doubt, the worst thing we can do is spread that. We don't want to be part of that. We want to be more of in the building up stage and understanding dark times are going to come. This is the reality of how life works. But it's not going to be the end. We have to just hold on and understand that when Neptune comes and covers up the sun's rays, that's what it does. The rays are your hope, are your light, are your optimism. But if Neptune comes around, it diminishes that. So you could also be feeling run down at that time. Now, I don't think it's a coincidence that as the sun gets closer, right, to Neptune, we're probably going to hear, it's just kind of, to me, it's logical because I see it on paper. I see the planets, right? I see like the sun's getting up there, right? And then Mercury's, retrograding back, but it's going to come back into Pisces. And so it's going to be lots of stuff about confusion and fear because the opposite of the Pisces energy would be doubt, would be overly critical, okay? And so we don't want to be that. And that's what happens at the full moon time. Everything I've just talked about, because the moon is at the opposite end of the sun. And the moon is at its height at 19 degrees and 37 minutes in Virgo, okay? If you don't know if you have degrees there, comment your stuff so that you can find out. For anybody else listening, if you know astrology enough where you have your chart in front of you, find out if you have anything that squares the full moon energy. So squaring the 19 degree Virgo energy would be 19, 20 degrees in Sagittarius, 19, 20 degrees in Gemini. Which brings me to this reading. I'm going to give out a birth date, time, and place. This is December 9th, 1979, 9:15 p.m. Forgive my pronunciation. It is Uzbekistan. I can say that part. Let me give you the city. It's Tashkent, Tashkent, Uzbekistan. Now, I talked about the full moon in Virgo for a reason, all right? Because you have your own Neptune at that degree. And that means you're going to have Neptune squaring Neptune for you at this time. Your Neptune at 20 degrees is in Sagittarius energy. So you have Virgo over here, you have the transiting sun here, so that's your full moon. Along with the transiting sun here, you've got Neptune, okay, 18, 19 degrees. And then down here in your Sagittarius energy, you've got your own natal Neptune at 20 degrees. All right, so that's a T-square you're going to have. T-square, when we have squares, when I say the word square, it's tension. It's stress. We have to work harder and longer at something. Okay, we have to have more conversations. It's just more work involved, bottom line. And more work typically means it gives us stress. Okay, it doesn't mean it's an impossible situation, but for you specifically, you're going to want to be aware that Neptune and the moon opposing each other means that we can feel. It's a very empathic time. So if at this time we can feel what others are feeling, you might feel strong emanations of fear, okay? You might feel, now luckily your Neptune is in Sagittarius energy. And I'm saying luckily, this can go two ways because Sagittarian energy has a tendency to blow things out of proportions. It adds to things. Now the nice thing is that it's in your fifth house of creativity, which is wonderful. But the house of creativity is also the house of children, all right? It's the house of romance, it's the house of dating, it's the house of where we take a risk. It's where your sun is located. Your sun is actually only like 3-4 degrees away from your Neptune. So you can be a very dreamy person. You can appear that way because Jupiter, right, this Neptune energy, I said Jupiter along with the Sagittarian energy because Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius. All right. And so it expands and blows things up. Okay. It adds to things. It's very optimistic. So there might be things about you in your art or in terms of children, in terms of romance and dating that can be almost dreamlike. Okay. Unrealistic. And at this time, Neptune squaring Neptune, you might not have felt it 6 months ago, but recently Neptune moved a degree, the transiting Neptune, and the transiting Neptune moves really slow. So it's getting closer to your natal Neptune, my friend. Now what that means is it really tests your ability to be realistic. It tests your 3D world because Neptune is the 5D realm. And so what happens is it might feel like a time of, am I losing my mind? You might feel a little crazy. The beautiful thing is it's in your house, your fifth house. So this kind of energy, this is like Van Gogh energy, right? It's take it to the canvas, put it on paper or make something like with your hands, right? Do something with it. It's a great creative force. Neptune is also the Pisces, right? It's the ruler. So it's music. It's do you make music? Are you an artist? Are you creating? Now, when we put it in this perspective of children, there's this, I might be a little over optimistic about my children. I might not be realistic, okay? And so just being aware of that, right? Having Neptune and your sun together. Or this could also be, like I said before, be about romantic partners. You may feel that it could be your own opinions about yourself in terms of romance. You may think you're very romantic or something like that. And, sometimes we think certain things and our thoughts, until we get a reality check from somebody else where they're like, you think that about yourself? Like, no, that's ask your 10 closest friends questions, objective questions about you and get the responses. To find out the truth, right? And it's not about, you're delusional necessarily. It's just we all have moments and times where we don't think real clearly because we all have Neptune somewhere in our chart. We all do. And so your Neptune and sun being that close together could also lend that at times you do feel drains on your health. And so because this moment when the sun is up here, you not only have that T-square of the Neptune, but you're also going to have your sun squaring your sun. So your vitality and your health, you might, there might be some drainage going on, okay? It might feel low. There's something also that is important, which is resistance to substances is massively lowered at this time. Some people take something to go to sleep and they might find they might not need as much of it. Or if you're under prescription stuff, you might find you might not need as much. Definitely be very careful about mixing alcohol and prescribed medication at this time because of the lowered resistance. I know in the past, a whole lot of crap that you've been going through in terms of relationships. A lot of shit with self and significant one-on-one relationships. You have your descendant and your ascendant, right, at 157 in Leo and in Aquarian energy. And right now, the planet Uranus is like at 4 degrees. But in the past, Uranus went backwards. And when Uranus went backwards, it was exactly squaring your ascendant and your descendant, which means it shakes shit up in your personal life. It shakes shit up at home. It shakes shit up at the job. It shakes shit up in your significant one-on-one relationships, any significant one-on-one relationships. It tests them. And when Uranus comes, its job, you know what Uranus is? We all call it like the awakener, right? It's expect the unexpected. Uranus zeroes in and it says, where has a pattern been created in this person's life? That's what Uranus does. It searches out patterns and it says, you know what? This is a pattern and I'm going to dismantle it. It says this is a structure that this person created. I'm going to shatter it. That's what Uranus does. It wants you to learn how to put the pieces back together again. And so it wants it not to just make you to be resourceful and to make you to be adaptable, but also to not get so stuck in a rut. Now, this isn't to say whatever relationships you're in, just go ahead and throw them out. But I will say that it tests relationships. And this means marriages. This means business partnerships too. So if you were in those kinds of relationships that were rocky to begin with, that were on unsteady, shaky ground, this would have dismantled them. It looks like there's something fun, something new, but something different coming for you. So this is the part of the reading that I like. There's one last thing about that full moon that I will mention that's important. It's your communication at that time. It's also being tested, big time. It's Mercury squaring Mercury. Now, it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but if you are not willing to be open to what other folks are saying, okay? Being open means you are willing to sit down and in your own mind say, is there any truth in what they're saying? All right, if you aren't willing to do that, it could be bad. It could be very stressful. It could add much more stress than you need to have. Again, that's committed one-on-one relationships. This is romantic partners. This is children involved. It's all in your 5th house, and it's your bonded relationships. So let us talk about different, the new. I don't know if I gave out today's date. We're like at the end of February. It's like February 27th, February 28th. And Venus up there in the sky right now is sending a beautiful sweet trine to your moon. And your moon is in Leo. So Venus is like at 24, 25 degrees. Venus is all about a new love. Venus is all about what I love, okay? It could be in terms of work because it's in your 10th house location spot. Now, does that mean you find a new love at work? Does that mean you find a new work that you love? You tell me, all right? You comment back and let me know. It kind of looks like it's a very independent thing though. It's just crazy because it's in Aries. So it could lean more towards a new thing that you love, all right? It may not necessarily represent a human being, although it can, all right? It can be someone that you meet at the job, even though there have been lots of great things going on with work. There's a lot of supportive energy there, and Venus, and very soon, Venus is going to be moving into Taurus. Venus goes into Taurus energy on March 5th, okay? And when Venus gets there, remember folks, Uranus is in Taurus, and Uranus moves very slow. So Uranus is sitting at 3.5, 4 degrees. So at this time, Venus and Uranus are going to hook up. Now, Venus is, right, peace, love, beauty, okay, money, my resources, my finances, okay? So this could definitely be a positive thing because it gets hooked up with Uranus, and Uranus is about shaking things up and surprises and something new. One thing I want to mention for you, Oh, I don't want you to be impulsive, because that's what happens. Venus gets with Uranus and she can be impulsive, okay? Because it's like, ooh, I got this money, let's go buy this. Or it's, ooh, this thing is shiny, let's buy it, right? Or it's, ooh, there's this new job opportunity, let's jump on it, all right? Because Uranus is involved and because Venus is involved, and it involves our desires, that's Venus, be careful. This is not me saying, hey, this is a bad deal. It means look into it. That's all it means. Do your research, look into it. And this could also be by way of a relationship. If it's a relationship, let me put it to you like this. Typically, anything that's new that begins under this sort of an aspect, when Venus is on top of Uranus, it's normally a one-shot deal, typically. So what you would want to do is find out, do some research and dig deep to see if there's any longevity. Again, if it's a personal relationship, it's likely not something that will be lasting. I'm going to go to, we have a new moon, 23rd. Actually, it's 24th, 25th, depending upon where you live. But there's an aspect here that I have written down for you in particular. You know, when March comes at the end, it's an interesting month. It's a transformational month. People are calling it the game changer month of the year. I'm not necessarily saying that, because I will say there are beginnings that happen, okay? So maybe that's what they're saying. But the game's not over in March. Like, we have a whole year of 2020 to live out. It won't be till Saturn is done and doing its thing. And this is relevant for you because Saturn is actually going to sit on your descendant at this time. And I want you to know this in advance. This is that if you were in a shaky relationship, there is this additional testing of it. It might even be a finalizing of something ending. Now, this is in all relationships. Doesn't have to be necessarily just marriages, but it's a group energy too, because it goes into the Aquarian energy. You have your descendant, like 1.5 degree in Aquarius. So this could be friends, social circles. All right. So you want to kind of just be aware that if there are friends that you're no longer friends, shit just doesn't work anymore. Just, you grow, they grow. And the growing apart is a very real thing. That happens. Interests change, and they're supposed to. That's the thing people get hung up on. But I've been their friend since forever. And we're supposed to change. We're not supposed to stay the same, folks. We are supposed to grow. Watch nature. It grows, it withers, it dies, it changes. Shit gets eaten, shit gets destroyed. And then out of seemingly nothing, something beautiful new grows. This is life. Now, this is not to be mean or to be cold, okay? But Saturn tends to be that way. I have energies written down, words for Saturn. This Saturn is all about a rise of Saturn. It's all about the newness, because she's entering a new sign. She's entering Aquarian energy. Now she goes into Aquarius energy and she literally travels to 157, right on your descendant. She will sit there on May 11th. Remember, this is relationships, okay? But it could be group relationships as well. But it definitely would be if you had any new relationships that started up in the last few months, which goes back to this Uranus stuff I'm talking about. You remember, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius energy. So it's all connected, okay? Saturn gets to 157 and then goes backwards. And she stays backwards all the way. Or I'll just put it like this. Saturn doesn't get back to your descendant until December. She retrogrades all the way back to 25 degrees Capricorn. And then she has to go forward again. So that means we're still trying to figure stuff out. We're still trying to establish what it is that's going to be more stable and more permanent in our future. But after March 10th, there's a window that comes. There is a video that talks in detail about the degrees and the dates of where we get some clarity, because Mercury ends her retrograde. She's only in forward in air for like 3 degrees. And then she goes into Pisces. Well, when Mercury hits Pisces again, she slows down. Things become a little bit more clouded, right? So that's a time where if you have to make decisions, if you have to sign something, if you have to do something important, you want to know that window. And you want to know where that happens in your life. That window is March 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. Watching that video will tell you in what area of your life it's happening in, depending upon what your rising sign is. Saturn, she goes back to 25 degrees Capricorn. All right, so she's doing this for the most of 2020. And then in December 18th, she has not only moved forward already, but she now gets to 0 degrees Aquarius. And by January 3rd, she's back on your descendant again. All right, so what does this tell you? Okay, it tells you that there's just change happening, and the best thing you can do is be flexible, to not be fixed. Saturn is restructuring itself. All right, the universe is restructuring you. And all you can do is embrace it. The more you resist the restructuring, the harder and more stressful it's going to be. One good optimistic, well, I shouldn't just say one. There's lots of good optimistic things. You know that. Like, you are all fire. But when Saturn comes back on January 3rd and enters and sits on your descendant, Jupiter is going to be with Saturn, which is beautiful. Because Saturn by itself, Saturn is cold, okay? It is detached. Okay, especially Saturn in Aries or Aquarius energy, very detached. Saturn is very serious. Saturn, the disciplinarian. Saturn sets up new structures. Well, we're not at a time where we can start building foundations yet. We are still trying to figure out where we want to set down, where it is we want to build. That's what we're all doing for 2020. We're all trying to figure that out. So regardless of what anything else says in your chart, it's going to come down to that. It's going to come down to, we're in a waiting period and we're still figuring it out. But January 3rd comes around and Saturn and Jupiter together are going to sit on your descendant. And this is a beautiful blessing. It is a time of abundance and beauty. Okay, it's a time of, I know what's important and there's some good here. When Jupiter and Saturn set up a structure together, it is, first of all, anything that begins in Saturn stays because it's built to last. Now, for you specifically, I just wanted to make sure that you understood that this is kind of like a time where you need to just hold on to being flexible, to not making major decisions. Or if you make decisions, realize you might be changing your mind. Start treating these next 6-7 months as like experiments of, you know what, I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm still figuring that out. There's been a lot of changes and, you know, I'm trying to figure out what it is I value now, what my new value system is. Because Uranus in Taurus is really, for you especially, you're figuring out for work, right? For your highest ambitions in the world, I should say, right? You're really reevaluating that, right? You had ideas and you were pretty certain, but now it's a matter of, I am still exploring that and I'm going to figure that out. So I hope this has helped to put some light upon your path. If you have any additional questions, just comment below.